better.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Good
Ronnie.
evening.
That's just too funny.
Good evening, Captain Ronnie.
Hello.
Captain Ronnie.
Good. Yeah. Well, before we get into that, let's get through this administrative stuff really quick. Guess what? We actually do have a new patron.
Wow.
He is a local guy to us there, Mr. Sedgley.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
He's
his name
loco
is,
like us?
yep, he is loco. His name is Scott Lemming, and his account is at Pax Woodworking.
Oh, I know
PAX
him.
Woodworking. He became a tool sharpener.
Cool.
But so welcome, Scott. We're happy to
Welcome,
have you.
Scott. You're a wicked cool dude.
He asked if we would make an announcement for him, and I said yes.
Of course.
And it's unfortunate because this is the second year in a row that he has done what he's doing, and both times I've been out of town.
Same.
I am starting to think that Scott is doing this on purpose.
Yes.
Sounds like
So he says, he writes us a message on Patreon. This is for all of the local woodworkers. Hey, gentlemen, I believe I've told Jason and Sedge already, but I will be hosting a woodworker meetup at Sun King Brewery in Fishers on Friday, October 18th at 6 p.m. If you feel inclined, feel free to mention it on the next podcast. So we are inclined, Scott.
Yes.
And if you are local to the Indianapolis area and you want to go to a meetup, I believe the last one that they did was actually pretty fun and it was a good success. I can't remember where I was for that, but I was out of town. I was at an event somewhere, or maybe I was in Germany. I can't remember, but this one I will be in Germany. So Sun King Brewery in Fishers, Indiana, Friday, October 18th, 6 p.m. Be
Cool.
there or be square. And this podcast actually comes out the Monday of that week.
Cool.
And I do have a sponsor for this month's giveaway.
Awesome.
I know we kind of failed last month with everything going on with the meetup, but I think we came through at the meetup, so I don't feel that bad about it. Bits.
Awesome.
They were a huge supporter
Oh, yeah.
of the meetup, but they are being our monthly giveaway again, and they're going to give away 3 more $50 gift cards to 3 of our lucky patrons. And if you want your chance to win, you must go to patreon.com/Green Suiters Podcast and become a member. And the higher the tier, the more entries you get.
Most excellent.
Best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Bits and Bits.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Thank
hey,
you.
hope everybody can make October 18th at Sun King and Fishes.
Do you think that you think our pilot would get mad at us if we had him take the Green Suitor jet back for just like a quick and then go back to Boston? Do you think that he would get mad? I mean, he doesn't like it when we go off schedule.
Well, no,
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
we're going to Boston this weekend. That's next weekend is the meetup. So
Oh,
I'll have the private jet in Germany.
okay.
So you know what? I might be able to just hop on the private jet, come back for the meetup, and then just get back on and go back to Germany. Maybe
That's
I'll stop
true.
in like Paris or something on the way, just because.
Well, I was thinking about using it because I knew you were going to be in Germany, but we'll talk about it offline.
Hmm.
We've got that jet
Yeah.
scheduling.
Well, I
app.
mean,
We
you can use our other one.
That's true. That's
It's out of the
true.
shop. It's out of the shop now.
That's true.
I
We
got
do have a backup.
and the helicopter. Don't forget about the helicopter. I'll be taking
Yeah.
that.
That's true. Well, that's true too. Yeah.
Well,
okay, we're okay. One way or
yeah.
another, we're gonna be all right.
The helicopter's at my summer home right now, though.
Oh, that's right. And you've got a
Yeah.
tarp over it.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
are there, some are not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think I told Mark Cuban he could borrow our helicopter.
Oh, well, there's that.
Yeah, there is that.
Okay.
That's a good
It's-
sandwich. Cuban
All right.
sandwich.
Yeah, Cubans. All right. Well, guess what, everybody? Tonight we have a special well, not really special. He's actually everybody else said no. So I was like, well, I know this one guy.
Yeah.
Mr. Jevin Chaney from Chaney
Woo!
Concepts.
Woo!
Hello.
Welcome, Jevin
Welcome.
Chaney, the man,
Thank you for that lovely intro.
the master of meats. Everybody
Yes.
loves Jevin's meat.
Yes, they do.
He's
Especially in their
the
mouth.
best. He's the best meat smoker in town.
It's
Yeah,
a
the
good thing
best
it's
meat.
a small town.
The best meat I have ever had is in my mouth is definitely
Oh my
Jevons.
God. This went downhill real quick.
What?
Well, thank you.
He makes really good brisket, pulled pork, sausages.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
what do you think I was talking about?
Pulling pork.
Pull-
My 3 3/4 Pellini.
yeah.
That's it.
We made a special Pellini just for him.
Yep.
That's it.
So we have Jevon on as our guest tonight. So we're gonna obviously talk about him. We're gonna get his entire life story from the time that he was born. But first, I guess we can talk about what we've been up to. You want to do that?
Sounds good to me.
Jevon, do you want to go first? You are the
Sure.
guest.
I will go first.
What have you been up to? What's on your bench?
Yeah, oh geez.
Isn't that a
So actually, for me, the last 2 weeks have been very busy woodworking. I just finished a 10-foot conference table that I delivered. That has a whole fiasco built into it. If we want to get into unhappy customers, even though they agreed upon certain things.
Yes, we're
Oh,
definitely going
boy.
to talk about that because
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
So I delivered it twice, and we'll get into the details later, but they're happy with it now, which is good. And then behind me, I know it's a audio podcast, but it's a solid walnut credenza that I'm working on, subcontracted with a table company to do this build. So after the podcast tonight, I will be in here till wee hours of the morning finishing it up so I can get it to them early tomorrow to get their finish on. So I just build it,
Wow.
sand it, and then they do the finishing, which is and deal with the client, which is also nice. So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. So I got to really use, that's the first time I've used the domino other than just basic stuff. So as far as a one-man glue up, that made it very, very easy.
Hashtag sponsored by Festool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag domino.
Hashtag Domino. Hashtag DF500.
You know, when with what you said, I think it's so hard to use a domino when you're under pressure like that. If you're used to doing anything else, you're like, I don't have time to deal with that. I'm gonna do what I know works and just get this thing slapped together. It's
Yeah.
so hard to slow down and go, okay, I'm gonna use this for this project.
Yep. And thankfully, like I watched Sedge's laws video multiple times just because there were multiple applications for it. It's all mitered edges, so I had to do the miter and not blow it out, which I watched Jason's video for that too, just to go back and reiterate and pick up on little things that I really didn't want to mess up. Luckily, I had enough scraps to do a few practice pieces. But overall, once you figure out the laws and you know what you're referencing, it's
Trust
pretty
the
darn
tool.
easy. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
once you trust the tool. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, but other than that, I've got a couple hundred hats that I got to get done. And then I work at the restaurant this weekend, so that'll be fun.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's another thing that I want to get into is like the whole evolution of that hat stuff. And because I feel like your business has really, and I want to also get into your business. I mean, that's really where I think we can start, like what your business is, what you do, all the different things that you're involved in. But I'm really interested to see how some of these things have evolved because, and I don't want to steal your thunder because I'm sure you'll talk about it. I know you leaving your previous job.
Yep.
You know, and then there were some concerns there on like, hey, how can I monetize these things and what can I do? And now it seems like things are going really well. So I'm excited to get into that.
For sure. Ronnie, what have you been up to?
Yeah.
Oh, I was on vacation last week, which was, I feel very lucky. We managed to go on vacation between two hurricanes, one starting right now. I have a friend that lives just on top of Tampa Bay, and I have another one that lives closer to the shore. And I'm actively texting them right now. And he just had a tree go down in his front yard, like right. This is at what 5:30 on, and it's not coming until 12 to 2 in the morning. And they've already had trees go down in their front yard,
boy.
and it's going to be a bad one. So that we were very lucky and fortunate that we had a trip that fell between the two. But we were planning on going to Anna Maria Island, which is just below, like it's right above Bradenton. It's right below Tampa. And we're going to try a new place. We had a house rented They told us to come on down. They said the streets would probably be flooded, but they'd be okay. So we headed down. We had a room reserved in Valdosta, which is right of the Georgia line before Florida. And they called us twice and asked us if we still wanted the room because they had a waiting list of people that were trying to get out of Florida and they wanted to make sure that we were going to be staying. And we said, we're on our way down. So we arrived at 9 o'clock and it was pitch dark, like everything on that exit, no power, nothing. It was so dark that I had to go really slow on the road. The red lights, stoplights weren't working. Pulled in, like saw the hotel, totally dark, no power. And we stayed there for the night. And luckily it was like a mild, fall day, not hot, not cold, or we would have been miserable because it was a hotel without windows that opened up. The air wasn't on. There was no power whatsoever. They checked us in with a flashlight and we stayed there. And as soon as we got up to the room, we went out on VRBO and started looking for houses in the Destin Miramar area, which is like the top of the panhandle. And that's usually where we go for fall break anyway. We were just trying a new place. So we booked a house last minute, luckily, by like midnight. Went to sleep, woke up the next day, and just drove that direction instead. And when we drove away from Valdosta, well, actually in Valdosta, the damage was unbelievable. Like all the billboards, telephone poles, trees, everything was down. And to put in perspective, when I woke up and looked out the window, we were on an exit that had a Starbucks, restaurants galore, like shopping centers, everything. I didn't know it when we pulled in because it was so dark. I didn't know. I thought we were at a hotel in the middle of nowhere. We were in the middle of like the major city exit, but it was all black. So we drove away from there. We drove west. And as we drove, probably 45 minutes, it was just houses on trees on houses, mass like destruction everywhere. And then all of a sudden, it was instantaneous. No damage. No damage. Like 40 minutes driving west, all of a sudden, you wouldn't even know it was a storm. There were paper signs in front yards and just things you can tell that there was no storm damage. So we had perfect weather and we kept hearing about one that was coming. And luckily, we came home and now here's another one coming. And they're talking about another one coming behind that one. So it's really bad.
Isn't this the time of year where like the hurricanes are really bad? The fall?
It is.
Yeah.
It is hurricane season, but to put in perspective, we've been going to Florida for fall break at this time of the year for the last 16 years. We have just pretty much forgotten that it's hurricane season. It hasn't happened for like 20 years.
It starts, I guess, middle of June, hurricane season, and lasts, and it's very, very rare you get one in November. So these late season ones are the ones that are building up now. When you say 1, 2, and 3, I've never seen it like this, and they say this is a once in a lifetime that's hitting this Milton.
Yeah, the one that's
Marianne and I lived through so many hurricanes for 25 years in Fort Lauderdale, and Ronnie, just you saying that just brought back so many memories about complete blackout.
Yeah,
It's crazy. It's super eerie because especially in South Florida, where you have all that light pollution, and the next thing you know, oh look, there are stars above you
It's
after the
black.
hurricane passes
Yes.
because there's no lights. It's crazy.
And my friend that lives in north of Tampa told me that, although the news acts like everyone evacuates, it's actually a very small number. He said he doesn't know anyone who evacuated, that no one he knows. So they're all riding it out. He's at 50 feet above sea level, which is good. I would be a little nervous if I was anything below 15 because they said that the surge could be that high, which would be very scary. But it's going to definitely be a devastating hit to them when they're already been hit really hard. So that was very, for us to see that, you see it on the news, but to see it in real life, it made that event real. You almost feel guilty going and having a vacation, but we didn't go last year was the first year we didn't go for fall break. So I was glad to get a break. And I actually became bored on Thursday, which is, I have not been bored in a long time. I realized, the first few days we went to the beach and we did some things. Cameron and I took our one wheels. We rode 75 miles on our one wheel while we were there. 75 miles.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Well, all I know is that you basically didn't you go when were you on your boat trip? Was that before the meetup?
That was 4 weeks ago.
Okay, so you were on your boat trip.
Mhm.
Then you came back. We did the meetup. Then you came back from that. Then you went to Florida.
Yeah.
This is
it's been-
holiday season for
It is.
Ronnie.
Yeah, fall is always really busy. There's always a lot of things stacked on top of each other. And this is the last year. I mean, Cameron's a senior, and that we get a full week for fall break, which most cities around us do not. But for some reason, we get a full week. And it's like, it's crazy to not go on a trip because all of the places we go have already died off. People stopped going on. A lot of people get 3 days for fall break if they get it, and they don't go on a trip, somewhere. But we get 9 days basically off. So we have to do it. Madison was supposed to come down and join us on Tuesday, but school, she had a class she couldn't miss, and we had to even forfeit the ticket. We got a ticket for like $99. We lost that because we had to change it. She was going to fly into Sarasota. We changed our spot. And what's crazy is you look at Florida and you think, oh, it's not far away. 450 miles from Tampa to Destin area. It's 450 miles. It's crazy. You don't think it's that far, but it is. So we tried to change her ticket, but she's just like, she was only gonna get 2 days there, so we axed that, but it was a good trip. And then I came back to all the storm damage that happened on Friday when we left. I had three customers call that had damage. We had some screen damage. We had two trees in our backyard that blew over. A lot of stuff happened. So I've been working all week on just things that happened while we were gone, rental house stuff, and that's pretty much. Other than that, that's all I've been up to. Just taking care of all the things that happened while I was gone.
Yeah.
So that's
Sedge?
it. What about Sedge?
Draws.
Some problem with your drawers?
Laundry
Yeah.
or
My God, I just been working on draws.
Lots of draws.
You already
Oh my
started building
God.
your drawers?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't envy you for that. That's a lot of drawers.
That I 24 and it's funny because when I was going through my first design and then we're dropping a video this weekend. We shot it last weekend about going through spacing but resizing. And all of a sudden I went, "Oh, I'm going to have 30 drawers." And then I went, "No." So what was cool is I'm glad I did this, and it's kind of fun doing it like this. I'm not skipping a lot. I'm going step by step with video by video, and people are real appreciative of it because they're in the comments. They're going, "Oh, and I do a call to action. I go, "Hey, am I thinking this completely through?" And the comments coming in, and then one guy commented, and this weekend, and I'll call that out that I was going to do all these real shallow draws. And I was like, oh, and somebody says, Sedge, right when I was going to do that, you'll need a couple extra inches. So you should do a deep drawer in the bottom. And I thought, oh, okay, I will. And it's still, when I did it, I was like 30 drawers. And I went, no. And I reevaluated everything. I didn't go with the pre-finished ply. I went and bought some Baltic birch, and I'm making all my drawer stock out of that. And that's what I'm going to be doing in the next video and going step by step through it. But it's a lot of fun. And I got Salici undermounts for it. I got 24 pair. Holy macanoli.
It's the Progresso, right?
Yeah, the Progressa, and they're sweet. They're sweet. So I'm going to go through that. But what I want to call out is this, because you said something, Jevin, about watching a video or two. And I think YouTube for me is my memory. Okay. A refresher. And I'm going to say this, and I'm not blowing smoke out there. I am really blessed to have Jason Bent as a friend.
Oh, are we recording right now?
No,
We
we just
are.
lost our connection.
This is going
It's-
on Instagram. I'm posting
it's-
it on Instagram.
It's getting fuzzy right now. I'm losing connection.
Yeah.
Dude,
I'm pretty sure the internet's going
dude,
to die right now.
Dude, you are a phenomenal educator. I've watched 3 or 4 year videos just about undermount and spacing. And I really like how you talk about don't overthink this. And I'm really impressed. I know I've watched a lot of videos you've done. And but I was like, oh, that's a great way to show somebody that. So this weekend, I'm actually going to call you out in a couple of them. But dude,
Yes.
you have a great talent of breaking things down and teaching people.
That's
So
that,
how's
that's
that?
that drill sergeant. Yeah,
How's that as a compliment, Mr. Ben?
man, we can end the podcast now.
I just thought he had a golf page. Does he have a woodworking page?
It sounds
Yeah,
really funny that I'm actually saying that, but I'm not blowing smoke. You do a great job. So the other thing I want to call out is this. What have I been up to? I did a video on folding rulers and measuring, marking stuff, and somebody, remember I say it's a small world, but this guy reached out from Sweden and said, Sedge, I saw your video, and he said, I have a tumstock for you. I went, he explained it, and he sent a picture of it, and this was in August, and he actually sent me this. It's you can't, okay, because this is the beauty of if you watch it on YouTube. He sent me a folding ruler like this, and it's a Raybone. It's a English one, and he goes, I've had it for a long time. I don't use it, and I thought you'd appreciate it. So in the mail this week, Marianne goes, oh, look, Allie sent you something. And I went, nope, it's from Isaac from Sweden. And I thought, wow, man, I'm real lucky to have friends all over the world, So
Yeah.
it's a small world. Thank you, Isaac, if you listen to our podcast. I really appreciate it. It meant a lot.
Hey,
So-
what about the hinges on that? Is there like zero slop?
Yes, this is boxwood. It's a Raybone, and they're really tight, Ronnie. Next time you're over, I'll show you.
That's cool.
It's really, really nice. This is tight, but what I like, and maybe you can see it, is right in there. See that right there?
Yeah.
The hinge is sweet, but boy, there's like 3 splines on each side that go in, and it's all brass, and it is nice.
Well, you
So-
should
very
bring it
cool.
on Friday where I can see it.
Okay.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah,
How old
leave it
is
in the
it?
car.
It's I don't know exactly how old it is. I have a couple of levels by this company, Raybone,
Hmm,
but it's a number 1380, and it's so sweet.
that's awesome. I'd love to see it. Yeah, you could leave it in the car. Don't bring it with you on the trip, but we're gonna meet at Jason's house. I could see it then.
Oh, you're coming to Jason's?
Yes. Yeah,
Oh,
we're gonna
cool.
leave from there. We're gonna ride together to save.
Oh,
parking
that's
fee.
wicked. Oh, that's
Yeah.
wicked cool. I didn't know.
Yeah, our
Oh,
pilot
cool.
our chauffeur backed out on us. Luckily, our pilot still stayed, but I mean, our chauffeur, I'm like, I don't know
Right.
what happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to discuss what time we're meeting there.
Yeah, we'll do that after this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very cool. And I got a couple questions for you guys anyhow
Okay.
on
Cool.
on what to pack and stuff. But yeah, we're in Boston this weekend. I'm wicked stoked about that.
Wicked.
It's gonna be fun, man. And hanging
Yes.
out with you guys, but also Steve and are other people coming down for a meetup or something?
Oh yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah.
That'll be fun.
We should get a email or a message from Steve today or tomorrow, I would think.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
I've been
Hopefully
talking
we
to him.
we can get some local wingies there.
Well,
So-
I do know what we're doing Saturday night. We can talk about it after.
Getting
Okay,
some Boston. Are we getting some Boston butt? That was
Oh,
for Cheney.
nice.
That was for Cheney. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
I don't think Nicole would like that too much.
No,
Yeah.
I think I'm
Maybe-
talking like. I think I'm talking like. What do you call it? Like, what's the thing called? The little cooker thing.
Oh, there's a place there that
Smoker?
has
Yeah,
fine.
smoker.
There's
think
a
I'm
place
talking
there that
smoker
has
talk.
fine dining, and it's I think it's on
Denny's?
US 1. It's called the Golden Banana. I think we ought to go check that out. I heard
I
it's
have
a
a-
pretty
a life-
upscale 5-star restaurant.
It
I
doesn't
have a
open till
lifetime
midnight.
membership. I have a lifetime membership to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it should be
Yeah.
pretty cool time.
I've got a
So-
gold card. I've got a yellow card.
You got a
If
you
you
got a
pull
yellow
that yellow
banana.
card out in there, you watch
got a
it's
golden banana?
crazy. Everybody's like, he's got a
And-
yellow card.
And there's another show place across the way. It's a little up the road. It's called the Cabaret, and
Mhm.
that's a nice place too.
That's
Yeah.
a wine place, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I actually own the land of that, and it's a land lease. But
it is.
yeah,
I wonder
nothing
if
to
the
do with the building.
Cabaret's still open, man. That was a
Yeah.
fun hole to hit.
Oh boy, that's quite the saying.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about it.
That was their
like
slogan. That was their slogan.
This is a great hole to hit.
Yeah.
Just don't miss.
Yes, that's it. Wow. So that's what I've been up to. Mr.
Awesome.
Bent, you're next.
I've been building this chessboard. Been sharing that on social media. That's been pretty fun. And I was really hoping to get that done prior to leaving because we're going to Germany next Tuesday. And I was really hoping to get that done prior to going so I could ship it. And then I was like, well, maybe I can get it done and I'll just take it with me. And he's 5 hours from where we'll be at my wife's parents' house. And so my wife and I were talking about it today. She's like, you could just go there one day and come back the next day. He lives in the Netherlands, up by the coast. And so I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going to get it done. I've still got a few things left to do on it, but it's been a fun project. And we talked about it last week. I've purposely been using the Festool saw for this project, and that thing just continues to blow my mind. Other than that, I've had some contractors out lately to talk about this radon pipe that we need to move in the kitchen. I ended up buying a radon monitor, and I've been testing for about a week now in the basement, and my levels are all like under 2. The short-term levels under 1, so it's actually not even like the mitigation. I don't even have a fan on my mitigation system. It's a passive system, which I'm assuming the builders just put in the house when they originally did it. In the event I ever needed to have a fan system, it would be there. But the way they ran the pipe is just really, really strange. So it's looking like we're basically gonna cap it on the roof, and we're just gonna cut it. And I'm gonna remove the pipe that's in the kitchen. And then I'll continue to monitor the radon levels, and if it ever gets high, we're going to run an exterior to the back corner of the house and run it up the downspout for the gutter.
Oh, so you're just going to lay your pipe somewhere else?
I'm just going to lay my pipe somewhere else. Yeah. Yeah.
If you ever need more information on that, I had to become a radon expert, so I can always. I actually thought about adding that to a wing of my business, so I learned everything you can learn. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Well, so I've got this job, Ronnie. You want to come up? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Hey, that's an easy job.
Oh, here he goes.
That's an easy job. That's just adding a fan in the attic. I mean, that's not a big deal at all. But yeah, you're right. Passive system, what you said, I think it makes sense. If your levels are low, there's no point in worrying about it. If you're actively monitoring, doesn't matter. And you can always add it. The good thing is your builder actually thought to do that, which is amazing. Most builders do not. I had to actually install one in our house, like completely from scratch. I had to put a hole in the slab, run it up, ran it all the way up through, came out in the garage, then went straight up through the roof because everybody wants to do them on the outside of the house. And that's the way all radon people, because it's easier. That's why. But you can run them out of your roof.
Which is where we have it now. But that line needs to be capped, because if I cut it above in the ceiling in the kitchen, if any water makes it down that pipe or whatever, obviously we don't want any water, going in that pipe. So, and it's like $1,100, I think, to get a full system put in later. And I already have half of it there. So I'm really not worried about it. I don't think it's going to be a problem. So that's been something that we've been dealing with, been doing that. Golf. I am so freaking back in love with playing golf. Like, it is crazy, but I've been editing some videos, and this is one thing that I don't want to get into a deep conversation on this episode because I want to hear a bunch from Jevin. But I got to be honest with you guys. I have, over the past few months, really kind of started to feel this burnout. Like it's a real thing. Like I just haven't been super motivated to do anything. Like, every time I think about going out and filming something and then having to sit down and edit it, I would rather be doing something else. And a lot of that is just me getting in my own way. And I finally had this like epiphany the other day when I was driving in my truck, and I was like talking to myself out loud, and I'm like, I need to go back to just doing YouTube the way that I want to do it, because that's when I actually enjoyed it, and stop worrying so much about what's trending, how to do the titles. Am I going to get the right thumbnail? Is this going to upset my audience? Like, I just don't care anymore, because the reason I had this realization is because my life is pretty dang good, right? I am making, of course, way less money than a lot of other super successful people. And would I love to make more money? Of course. But my life is really freaking good the way that it is. And like, if I just maintain that, and I've been maintaining it by not doing anything. And that's why I'm just like, this is dumb. I'm just screw all of this. Like, screw worrying about the algorithm and making people happy. Like, because I've gotten to the point where I don't love it anymore. I really don't. And
I,
I,
you know
I'm
what? You just pegged something, by the way. You just like put a bookmark in my brain. It was when I started chasing the trends on Instagram that I
yes.
started not liking what I did because I no longer was showing things that were authentic. I was showing things that I knew they would perform well. And that's
Yeah.
the least enjoyable when I was doing what does the best on the platform. So that's something to remember. Do what you
I,
want to do and you'll enjoy it more.
And
So
guess
you know
true.
what? And guess what? Then it'll explode again for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you're being
I just,
authentic.
who
Yeah.
cares what everybody else is doing?
Yeah.
It's not even so much of that. It's just that, like, you know, I went to this conference, there was a lot of good information there, but I look around this audience, like, or our fellow YouTube creators and content creators, and like I see them posting about like how they go about, you know, Drew Witt's a good example, John Cesara from Lincoln Street's a good example, Suman, all these guys, they'll post things about them editing videos, and I see that and I'm like, if I had to worry about that, I wouldn't do this. Like,
Mhm.
I like, good on them, you know, and it pays dividends, obviously. Like, they'll release a video, it gets hundreds of thousands of views. They can do one a month, and I'm sure they're good, but they're spending 75% of their time coming up with an interesting storyline and like running it past other people. And again, totally great for them. But if I had to do that, and that's the point that I was starting to get to, I was so nervous about, is this going to resonate well with my audience, and is this going to be in line with my brand? And I think what did it for me, honestly, was this year I started to work with brands. And when you start working with brands to do sponsored ad reads in a video, your views matter, because if you don't hit the views, they don't come back. So then you really start getting selective about what types of videos you're going to do, and it becomes, you know, really nerve wracking. And so, like, what, I have a big channel, but I'm getting offered pennies on the dollar compared to channels that have less people than me because they get more views or whatever the case is. And I let that get in my head. And because of that, I really like started to throttle back. And now I'm just like,
Screw it.
stop freaking worrying about it. Like, go back to, like, I know what videos do well, but just do the videos that do well and that like I enjoy doing. And I'm so over it.
And I have
Teach.
another, yes. And I have another thing that I want to throw in there. I love conferences and I love education, but for me, it can almost be a stumbling block because I take it all in and I get overwhelmed and I do nothing because I learn so much. I
Yep.
off the top of my head, let's take somebody like Bourbon Moth, Jason Hibbs. He goes out there and just like, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. And like within a
Yeah.
year, it exploded and he broke every rule that they would tell you not to do. A lot of ways, he just did that. And that's where I feel like the conferences for me kind of make me almost overwhelmed to the point that it's analysis paralysis. I go, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. And like you said, it works for you. Other people may worry about things, but it works for you. And you're getting the information out. Sedge and myself and other people, when we need to know about door slides, we bring up your video, we get all the information we need. It doesn't matter about your editing or that your music hit. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
What, it was funny. What day was it? I think it was Monday. Monday, I was like, because I knew I was playing golf today. And I was like, okay, I have some stuff that I need to get done Monday and Tuesday. And on Monday, I sat down and I started doing computer work. And I'm like, man, I really don't like this. And I started doing editing. And I'm like, I'm really not feeling this right now. And I'm like, oh, I got to make affiliate link lists. And I've been struggling with all this affiliate link issues lately. And I'm just like, I need to get out of this house. And I got in my truck and I went to, like, you know, some golf store. I was going to go to Ale Emporium and they were closed, unfortunately, for remodeling. But on the way there, I was like talking to myself in the car, and I finally just said, "What? Why do I care? I don't like. What's the problem? I don't like this anymore. I don't like this, and this has become my job. So if I want to like it, I need to stop worrying about all this BS and just go back to doing whatever freaking videos I want."
Yep.
And putting them up there. If it gets 20,000 views, great. If I get sponsors, great. I don't care. But I just want to get back to it. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole anymore. I just wanted to share that because that was honestly like I came in the very next day, yesterday, and I crushed it. I got 2 videos completely done. Everything's ready while I'm in Germany. Everything's good to go. I'm going to film another video tomorrow. I'm going to work in the shop a little bit tomorrow. And like, I'm not like, no worries. Right.
Good.
It seemed like you were back when I was watching you do the chessboard.
Yeah. I mean, every time I build something, I'm like, this is awesome.
I was watching your story, and I know you were talking about the CSC 50, but I didn't care about that. I could see you woodworking,
Yeah.
and that's what you need to do. And I'm going to lecture you really quick. You need to teach people because you're really freaking good at it.
Yeah. But I'm not sure when the right time to bring it up, but have you counted the squares on the chessboard yet?
It's 8x8. So
You might be missing a row. I didn't want to call you out online about that, but
no, it's 8x8.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, I will say this.
He's
So
gonna go
since you mentioned
count
that-
right now. He's gonna hang on a second. I'm gonna go back there and check.
I
So
don't want to call you out online if you're missing one row.
Yeah. This is actually going to be something you can't tell just by looking at it, but it is not square. It is not square. So I'm going to talk about this in the video. You would never know this because like I cut them first and everything was 1.5 inches. I did my first glue up. Everything was good to go. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to touch the fence until this glue up is done. And I cut all the other strips. So now I know everything is exactly the same. And I needed to adjust the actual fence itself back and forth because I was using the slider. So I wanted to bring the fence back so nothing got pinched. And I accidentally grabbed the lever for the fence. So it moved. And I went and took an offcut and I put it up there. And I was like, okay, it fits in there good. But I think when I locked the fence down, it obviously pulled in a little bit and pinched. And so it cut it at like 1.48 or 1.49, but then multiply that over 8 cuts. So it's actually not exactly square. So you can only put it in and out one way, but that's fine because it's built into the box that way. Like you literally would never know because you could, unless you pulled out a measuring tape, you would never know.
Patrick would bring his calipers.
Yeah. Oh, of course he would. He'd be out. This is 17 thousandths of an inch. Proud right here. Oh, you should pull out your Sauer and Steiner.
I wonder if he measures the schmeckel like that.
Yeah, probably.
I had to jump in on a Festool Facebook post this week. Somebody called out their Capex was out 0.005 on the fence. And I was trying to think, I was like, what's 0.005? I started looking. It's the width of it. It's the thickness of a dollar bill. And I started thinking, if you're doing woodworking at 0.005 and it matters, you need to figure something out because it does not matter.
So dumb.
Yeah. I was like, wow. Hey, just an update because it's kind of cool to get these updates. This is right now in Tampa. I'm showing a video. That's his backyard right now. It's
wow.
His palm trees are starting to go crazy.
Wow.
I have a feeling all those screens will be gone by the end of the night. He's showing his pool area. He told me he would send me updates throughout the whole night. He actually invited me to come down, by the way. And if I was single things, I would totally just take off and go down there and experience that. I think it would be, and be able to help out with cleanup. I'd love to do that.
I have a good friend, a colleague at work. He's down buttoning up. Robert, Robert.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a place down in the Fort Myers area.
Yeah,
Naples,
I would love to go down and help
Charlotte, because they're gonna, the storm surge is where it's at on this Milton. They're gonna get some serious storm surge.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just got that text. I thought
Justin
I would tell
from Rustic Grain, him and Fallon, they're down there. I've been texting with him. He hasn't written me back yet, so they probably lost cell phone service. But
that's right.
He's there.
I find
and so isn't Hans.
I find it so amazing that it's a day's drive away for us, and we have perfectly sunny weather right now, blue skies, perfect weather, and he sends me that, and it's like trees are blowing down, and that blows me away.
It's the weather here right now in Indiana is Chamber of Commerce weather. It is freaking perfect.
Yeah, same here. Same
65
here.
and sunny.
Yeah. Well, Jevin, I really want to kind of get into some stuff about you. So why don't you share? And I also want to hear about this negative client. But the first, I think I want to let's talk about what you did, how you got into all of this, and then what you're doing now, and like what your business entails, basically.
Yeah. So I was breastfed till I was 4. Um,
Well, I
no,
was 18.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, I was a teacher for 8 years in the public school. I taught special ed, and I started the business just as a hobby back in 2018. Started to build a client base and get familiar with tools and uh, kind of build the tools that I have now. And then I just got tired of it. And it got to the point where I was dealing with a lot of stuff that my classroom really wasn't equipped to handle, especially for the kids, and it wasn't fair to them. And I found that when I could, I'd be on SketchUp or doing different designs and getting files ready for the CNC, instead of doing my actual job, which was not fair to the kids. So um, thankfully, my wife was like, "Hey, I think it's time," and she was able to take over the insurance. So, uh, long story short, now I'm on my second year of being full time doing this, and um, the original goal was for it to be woodworking for most of it, and the restaurant opportunity kind of popped up at a good time. I'm technically subcontracted to do barbecue for a steakhouse that is, I can see it from my house. So my smokers stay over there. And then I can also use it as my kitchen for catering too, which is pretty darn nice. That then evolved into me working in the kitchen. It was like three to four nights a week, which we're only open 4. And I really enjoy working on the line, but with 3 young kids and a wife doing her master's, not the greatest home life. And I didn't want to be out of the kids' lives too. So I've honed that down to once or maybe twice a week. I'm over at the restaurant, but yeah, I really enjoy food and I enjoy cooking, and this is a good way for me to do that and still be able to cater and feed you guys.
And
Now,
you make
yeah,
amazing
man.
food, by the way. I've heard
Yeah.
about it
it's
forever.
okay. It's okay.
I
Relax.
was
Ronnie.
able to have it for the first time at Green Suitor Con, and I was
Con.
very excited.
Con.
Con, and
Con.
it was very, very good. And I will say my wife came down for Friday night, and she's a very picky meat eater.
Mm-hmm.
She ate her entire pulled pork, and she said it was excellent.
Well,
And
thank
she's
you.
very
Well,
picky,
A
very picky.
good sign is everybody killed it.
Yes.
Yeah, there was
There
nothing
wasn't
left.
anything left, was
No.
there?
Yeah,
No.
it was
I did not get a bite of anything.
Devour is the word I'd use.
it was excellent. I would rather have that than any restaurant that we could have
Same.
ever went to. It was just
I-
very, very perfect.
It was perfect. It was
Very good.
perfect, Jevin.
I was super
Phenomenal.
excited when Jason gave me the call and asked. I was kind of hoping it was going to come, but I didn't want to press because I know you guys were swamped with planning and everything. But I was really glad to be able to do that.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
you're doing the whole thing next year.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, there you go.
Go be ready for that.
Yeah.
I have one fly in here that makes me look like an idiot the whole podcast. He just keeps
So-
landing on me.
Yeah, Ronnie, it's the fly.
It's a
I got
fly.
I got one fly and it's on my pants.
Hopefully it's up.
Gosh, it's driving me crazy. So if
Jeff-
you,
Mine
see me,
drives me crazy too.
if you see me look like I've got Tourette's or something, it's the fly.
You see my
Just don't
hands
start
moving.
cussing. Ronnie
Gosh,
or Jevin, do you want to talk about the podcast that you have?
Sure. Yeah. So Mark
How is that
Spagnolo
going?
and
Never
I
heard of him.
Yeah.
Who?
The Wood Whisperer. Sometimes he talks like this.
No, I've never heard of him. No.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, he and I do have a podcast, and it has been, oh boy, quite a while since we've done it. Since I've went full time, trying to balance that and then We can really only record on Sundays, and we do have a plan for hopefully either this weekend or next weekend we'll get back at it. So it seems like we definitely do more episodes when it's cooler out. So I'm not a fair weather cooker. It doesn't matter what the weather is, I'll cook in it. I know that's not the case for most people. They like it to be nicer and warmer and all those fun things. But I really enjoy cooking when there's snow on the ground. It makes it look really pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I like grilling when it's cold outside. I like grilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I like watching Jason outside grilling in the snow.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Sometimes-
I don't care what the weather's like because I just put stuff in a pellet smoker and go back inside and check it from my couch.
Sometimes Nicole puts Jason on the back porch when it's cold and makes him think about things before she'll let him come back in.
Yeah. She's probably at that point. So how did the whole hat thing come about? Because
Yeah.
like it seemed like overnight, all of a sudden, you're like, okay, I'm leaving. Because I remember this vividly from our conversations that we had in the past. Okay, I'm a teacher. Okay, now I'm leaving. I want to try to figure out things to do. I'm woodworking. Oh, now I have this cool opportunity at a restaurant and I'm woodworking. And then, oh, by the way, now I make hats. Like how did that happen? I have a laser. I'm doing this.
So the restaurant thing really, that happened at a perfect time. So as a teacher, my income is not great, and I was able to supplement that with the hobby being woodworking and all the extra stuff. So when the restaurant opportunity opened up, that automatically almost replaced everything that I was getting from teaching. So that was a really big blessing. But then being full-time doing the woodworking, I wasn't busy all the time per se, like I anticipated doing. And I saw the hat thing explode on TikTok, and a bunch of other makers in the community were starting to do that. And I don't want to necessarily go to that level. I mean, some of those guys are getting 1,000 orders a night just by going viral on TikTok.
What?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. They like I said, they exploded. Some of them went from doing what I do now to having 3,000 square foot warehouses full of hats that they're shipping and a full team and all that kind of stuff. So, would it be nice to get to that point? Yes. However, I'm not gonna join the TikTok shop and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah. So I saw that go well, and it's another way for me to be creative. I like doing the design part on the computer, and I like making things for other people. So I started doing some designing. I think it was like $150 for the entry level hat press. I bought another $100 worth of hats and some leather that I had no idea what I was doing at the time. Cut it on my little tiny laser, which I still use today for all the hats, and just kind of started posting about it on Facebook, got some orders here and there. But since then, I'm up to 3 hat presses. I've got 3 different lasers that I run.
Wow.
And yes,
That
and
escalated quickly.
yeah, and it's all been local stuff. So I've boots on the ground going into different businesses, and now I'm trying to finalize an actual price sheet. The last couple people that I've went into for bulk orders of 200 to 1,000 is where I'm trying to get into, and I'm still a little too high. So I'll have to figure out my margins and whatnot for that.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Yep.
I can't even imagine. That's why one reason I've never let me ask you this before I say what I was going to say. Do you enjoy the fulfillment process?
No, I don't like the actual press part. The only thing that I keep in mind is the paycheck at the end. But the goal is to eventually have an employee that I can hire at X amount an hour come in and do the pressing. I will say now that I have 2 actual, hi Cameron. Now that I have,
Cameron.
yeah, now that I
Wait.
actually have He's hiding in the in the
He
window.
just, yeah, he just came up to the window. That's all. I think that's all. Only time we'll see him. Okay, never mind. He just finished mowing out here. He's going back to the house. He just
Uh,
came up to the window, put his hand, and just slid
yeah.
down like he was just murdered or something. I don't know.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, it's funny that Jevin saw it like right off.
Yeah. But now that I have two hat presses, it goes significantly faster. And they're automatic. It's top and bottom heat. You can set the timer. With the old one, I had to stand there, press it down, and it was only top heat and very, very entry level. But I did probably 2,000 hats on it. And yeah, so
Wow.
the two new ones I ordered from Alibaba, which was a whole nother experience ordering from that. The presses are great. It just took like 6 weeks to get here. Um, and so moving forward, yes, the goal is to continue to get into the businesses and selling one-offs are okay, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of back and forth just because there are so many options as far like just in inventory, I probably have 40 different colors of leather. And then there's acrylic that have 3 different colors layered in them. So based on the laser settings, I can go to a different depth for a different color. And then hats, Richardson alone has 84 different colors.
Wow.
Right.
So,
Wow.
and I'm in the process of also creating a website, and I'm doing it all on my own through Shopify, which is fairly easy, but there's little quirks in here like for different options and all the back end stuff that um, I'm trying to figure out. So,
Well,
Wow.
if you, so, I don't, you may not want to share this. I don't know. And if you don't want to, just please say so. But if you were to do like a 400 hat order
mhm.
and they were like the Richardson, whatever, the popular one, right?
Yep, 112s, yep.
Um, what kind of like actual profit do you actually make on something like that?
So if you go with Richards, and like it is almost every 8 hours, I'll check my price through my suppliers, and sometimes it's up $1, or I mean, it fluctuates so much. So I kind of have to
Wow.
build in a cushion in my price. Yeah, oh yeah. So Richardson will supply stuff kind of whenever they want to. They don't really have a schedule. So then there are big corporations that once a supplier drops them, they'll go on there and buy 25,000 hats. And just be sold out. So Richardson goes all over the place. But I've noticed, well, I don't know with all the weather and everything what it's going to do, but lately they've been a pretty good deal. So let's say it averages at $6 a hat. And then the leather patch, just the small portion, I average it between 25 and 30 cents. A whole sheet is $15, and then you can get anywhere from 25 to 40 per sheet. And then my time total is like 5 minutes, let's say. That doesn't include design, but so if I sell a one-off for $30, I'm all in at, if we do some rounding, $7. That's not a bad profit margin.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like barely makes it where it's worth it when you do a one off, and that's where the minimums come in, right?
Correct. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
the reason I asked, because we had talked about doing hats, and then I ended up deciding I wanted to go the embroidered route again.
Mhm.
And this box that's sitting behind me right here, I use From the Ashes embroidery. They've always been very good. They've always been fantastic, and I'm paying anywhere from 17 to 19 or 20-ish dollars per hat with the embroidered logo on it. And I've gotten some people that I feel like have had hesitation because I'll sell the hats for 30. They
Mhm.
used to be cheaper. They went up a little bit more. I used to sell the hats for 25. Now I get to sell for 30. But I've got to buy the box and I've got to ship it and it has to cover it. I might make profit on a hat $5 maybe,
Yeah. Mhm.
depending on where it's getting shipped to. So it's like it's not a lucrative thing, but that's me ordering them from somebody like you
Yep.
who is creating them and has those margins built in.
So how many did you order?
I ordered, they have a 12 per, a 12 hat minimum. I think it's like 48 hats. I think I did 2 dozen. I did, 24 in, the trucker and the soft style. And then I did 24 color, black and white in one, color in the other one. And I paid like $978 for that box of hats.
Yep.
And I've only sold like 7. I don't,
Yep.
So I'm not doing hats to make money, but I also am not making the hats like you are. So I was just curious as to like what your cost on a hat is, because it's interesting. I mean, it can be very profitable, obviously.
Yeah, and that's where that's been the hardest part, is trying to figure out those margins. So like I don't want to be greedy, but at the same time, I'm not trying to compete with some of those other embroidery companies also. Like, your hats are great. You chose to go with a better brand, but there are like local farmers that get their, or farm organizations that get like $3 hats that nobody will ever wear. They just go in a giant pile that farmers have hundreds of them from all these different events. And that's not what I'm going to compete with. But some of these companies just want the lowest price possible. So I have to go in there and try to educate them on, okay, people will buy these, but they're just going to sit there. And I have to kind of explain why it's more of a premium product and all those kind of things. So some of the hats that I can get in are cheaper. I just don't like to go that route. They're not as fun to work with. They come in terrible colors. They look terrible on your head. And
so I got a quick question. I want to understand the process. So that leather patch that's on the front there, right? You cut that, laser it out.
Yep.
And then you say, I'm trying to understand, you have a hat press that's pressed on?
Yes. Yep.
How's it attached, with adhesive or
Dominoes?
Yeah, dominoes.
so
Festival dominoes. It's the 4mm dominoes.
Yes.
Yep.
So you press that on. Okay.
Yeah, because it's a trucker style hat. There's space behind it for the
Yeah.
dominoes to go through.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can flush cut them too.
If it's a flush, you go with lamello.
Yeah, the lamella just Zeta
They
P2
just
or
they
whatever.
just snap into
sucks it
place.
in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
It's
it is an adhesive. So, and the adhesive coming out on all of these now, I believe it's like 40 pounds of pressure to rip it off. And so like this one's acrylic, so you can wash it and it won't fade away. And there's some that have foam in the back, some that don't, which basically is the thickness. The foam is what will deteriorate. So people are putting them on like Stanley's or whatever, putting them through the dishwasher, and 6 months in, they are still on there. So
that's cool.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
you know how the Bass Pro Shops are kind of like a trendy hat right now. You see a lot of people wearing them. Cameron and I stopped in there yesterday to check their motor pricing, and I saw their hats on the center. They're selling them for $5. They cannot be making a profit. They're just, which is smart. Just get them out there with your logo on there. Who cares?
They want. It's a
And
loss. It's a loss leader.
As we walked by, I told Cameron, I said, they're doing it right. They're selling the hats dirt cheap to get their logo out there. Because it's always bugged me when you pay for a logo and you're paying top dollar to get their logo out there. They should give them to you for almost cost. Just like you got people like Jason Bent buying a hat for $5, selling for $55, $60. It's just ridiculous,
It's worth it though.
And he's already sold.
That's why I have an entire box that nobody's buying.
No, it's worth it. That box is sold. He's
definitely a chick magnet, though.
Yeah,
that is true. That is absolutely true.
I have noticed when I'm wearing Jason's hat, people come up to me. They're like, "Are you Jason Bent?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." And it's just unbelievable the power you have.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm trying to push right now, getting into all these different companies, because it's almost the end of the year and they need some write-off stuff, and they've got budgets that they have to meet, or they don't meet the budget. Yeah, they lose it. Yeah, and they don't get it back. So that's why I'm trying to push as hard as I can. And I've only went like a 10-mile radius around my area. So
you need to drive up to Cleveland.
Yep. I mean, the options are endless, but I try to stay as local as possible, and that be like my selling point. Because a lot of these other vendors that they're getting them from, these companies that I'm going to are saying, well, what's your shipping cost? And I'm like, I'm just going to drive them to you. I mean, you're 3 minutes away. I'm not going to spend $40 in shipping to ship this giant box to you.
Right.
Dude, you know who you should try to work with?
Best
Hartville.
tool? Oh,
Hartville.
yeah.
Do they for their own branded
Those
hats?
hats would probably sell, yeah, their own branded hats that they could buy,
Yeah.
like have it at the tool show, and it just
Yeah.
has like Hartville hardware or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah, it's
people
true.
would buy the crap out of
That's
those
true.
things. You
That's
should
true.
really like,
I'll talk to
you should,
Ben Crawford,
yeah,
because he's affiliated with them. So, and I
you
think
should
they have a
definitely.
new guy over there now. So
And they may be like, how soon can you get them done? Because we have the tool show coming up.
that's true. Yep.
That'd be
That's
great.
so true.
I want to hear a little bit about this bad client experience. I think most of our listeners,
Yeah.
not most of our listeners, but definitely there are listeners of ours that have experience or they're making things for clients.
Yeah. And I
So
will preface it with this. I'm very tired of dealing with clients. So like the credenza behind me, it's another company that I'm working for to build it, where they build tables, but they don't build furniture. Not really sure why. I'm okay with it though.
right,
And so they contact me to build. This is like our third one that my dad and I have done. This is the first one I'm doing all on my own. And but it's so much easier to work with a client like that than just a random person off the street. Um, Mainly because they pay quickly and they are okay with whatever price you tell them. But anyway, so for this conference table, it was a 10-foot hackberry is what we ended up choosing based on the budget that they told me. And I don't know if you know much about hackberry, but it's got a lot of light. It's pretty inconsistent as you go through. And it was a glued up panel instead of a slab. So
It's
that
called
was,
Halle Berry.
yeah,
yeah, it's really really sexy wood.
Wow.
very curvy.
Yeah,
I'd like to work with Halle Berry.
Yeah.
it's
Uh,
ebonized.
Ooh, ooh.
Ooh,
It's smooth. Good curves.
yeah.
Hey, you are
Oh.
getting off the grain or off the cut.
Yeah, sorry.
Off the grain. I make myself laugh.
It's
Go ahead.
it's well figured.
It
There you
was.
go.
It was actually
It
very
was-
well figured. But it's inconsistent. So I ended up using Rubio, and she gave me a sample of the flooring. At first, it didn't need to be matched to the floor, but it ended up getting matched to the floor. So I took her a sample of it with cotton white on there, and it was very, very light. I suggested going darker. And she said, yes, that's great. Let's do it. So again, like the sample piece was as big of a sample as I could get her without building another 10-foot table to show her all the
Right.
different everything. And I took it to her spot where the lighting is not near what we have in our shops here. It was like terrible with no natural light. It was a very dark room. Showed it to her. She said, yeah, that's great. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And this is
Uh-oh.
where I learned the first thing, but I'll circle back to that. So a week and a half later, after the Rubio is fully cured, I take it up there while she's pressing me. Hey, when can I anticipate this table? I told her multiple times, there's a molecular bond with the wood. It needs to fully cure, or I'll be back here spot fixing and all that kind of stuff. So I get it up there mid-morning, assemble it, leave. Later that afternoon, she says, yeah, I just can't do this. It's too light. I'm like,
Oh God.
so I had to take about 6 hours to cool down before I responded.
Yep.
And
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
But you did it right. You didn't react
Yeah.
right away. You
Yeah.
had it. It's good to have that cool down period.
yeah, and so I'm pretty lucky right now. So my dad's shop is 20 feet through that door over there. And he was in the furniture business for 20 some years. So I went over there, explained it all to him, and he got ticked too, because it's like, well, you did everything you could have. So I go up there the next day. I take the sample that I made, showed it to her again, and I'm like, "Well, this is what you agreed upon." And she's like, "Well, don't you think it's pretty light?" I said, "It is fairly light, but I think it goes well in the space." I'm like, "I do not want to redo this table at all." Um, and long story short for that, I end up hiring somebody to go up with me for a half a day to take it apart, load it back in the truck, bring it back in here. Just because I can't manhandle that myself. It was well over 100 pounds, just the table. So,
What
uh,
did, just out of curiosity, was it just a wooden top with metal base or was it a
yes.
wooden base? Okay, cool. All
Yep.
right.
Super, super easy. So I had the top glued up from one of my wood suppliers, and I got the metal bases done, powder coated and everything in the Amish. So as far as building, this was a pretty cake and very profitable build. I say that lightly, but the longer I've been into it, the more I can out uh, outsource. I'm not too mad about it. But I ordered probably $100 worth of Rubio in samples just to figure out what she might like. And I don't know if you guys have used the pre-color yet, but that really opens up a whole nother
Oh yeah.
realm of different colors. It's
Mhm.
almost overwhelming
Yeah.
as far as options go. But man, there are some really cool color combinations. So I gave her 4 more samples that I created. Again, this is another week and a half that's went by after everything came in and scheduling. And I take it back up to her. Within like 2 seconds of looking, she says, "Okay, let's do this one." And I said, "Well, let's hold on. Put it on the floor. Do whatever you need to do to make sure that this is the right one, and we're not gonna
Yep.
be back up here again." Okay, she agrees. So I come back, I order the stuff, comes in 3 days later or whatever, which I do suggest buying it from Rubio's site rather than Amazon, even though Amazon will come in a little quicker. It is more expensive. Um, but anyways, I get it in, and the bottom, after I sanded for 6 hours, the bottom soaked up an entire thing of pre-color. So I was completely out. I didn't think it was going to soak in near as much. So I had to order another 2 bottles of pre-color. Um, and in the midst of all this, that's when this company contacted me about the credenza. So, well, my shop's not big enough to have 2 giant projects going on. So I luckily have the garage, the old shop at the house. So I had a buddy help me take the giant table to the house, and finished everything up. There were still a few spots that were a little bit lighter, and I'm wondering if I didn't sand quite deep enough. Um, maybe, but I did go through 3 grits, which was a little bit more than what I thought I probably had to. Um, but long story short, she is happy now,
Oh,
as of now. It's only been 4 days. Maybe she'll change her mind tomorrow. Um, and I only ended up charging her for the cost of all the Rubio. I didn't charge my time. And the only reason I did that was this is a company in town that it's the Chamber of Commerce. And so
You want to
anybody
stay in there.
correct, anybody and everybody that knows anybody in town has dealt with the Chamber of Commerce as far as businesses go. So making everybody happy there, I had to chalk this up as a learning experience, no matter how angry I was. Thankfully, I could vent to my wife, and she's my voice of reason. So,
Mhm.
um, but I felt like I handled everything professionally. The only thing that I would go back and change is a contract. Um, coming up with a contract and stating this is
Change
what we
orders.
agree. Yeah, this is what we agreed upon. If something changes, this is how I'm gonna charge you, or however that needs to be.
Mhm.
Which would
You
be my
know,
question to you guys that do more client work. Um,
yeah, you want to protect yourself from changes for sure. That's because it happens, but you also want to protect yourself from the decisions they make that you were okay with it. And you gave them samples, that's good. And they were okay with it. Even it comes down, you have to remake it because you can't, they signed off on it. But whenever I take on a project like that, it's custom, I always add a little amount depending on how big the project is. I always add an amount over every single thing. I have never seen that amount. Like, say it's a $15,000 project and I add $700 to it, $800. There is something that's unforeseen or a problem with the
Yes.
customer that I have never seen that money that I've added onto it. It's just been a cushion that has saved me. So
Yeah.
I always, if it's custom, always put a pocket of money in there because it's going to get spent.
Yeah. And so this is another learning experience. She told me what the budget was, but the original quote was for this table and for a custom sign for when they walk in. So I adjusted on the invoice my price for the table accordingly to make it, oh, I don't know the right word for it, but to make everything flow correctly. Like, because if she wanted a sign down the road, I didn't want to show that the sign was only $300 instead of what I should actually charge. And because she bundled it is where I was able to meet the original price. Well, then she backs out of the sign, but she already saw the price of the table in the original invoice. So uh, I don't know. Moving forward, do I invoice two different things, or I guess that's where I'm asking you guys on that.
To me personally, I would break it down into separate projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two different
And
things.
if they ever ask any questions, just be like, well, I take, each project is its own job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's at that point, that's really all you have to say. This is how I figure out my stuff. It's not, you can group the two quotes together, but like I'm building you a table and I'm building you a sign, or I'm building you a nightstand, or I'm building you whatever. Like, here are the estimates for each individual thing. Just because I bundled them together does not mean anything. You know what I mean?
And,
Yeah.
and for your own purposes, I've found that the larger the project is, the more you'll sell yourself short.
Yep.
Because
It's
that
like,
number keeps getting higher and higher, and
yes,
subconsciously you're like, I can't
Whoa.
say it's going to be 10 grand.
yeah,
And then you
Yeah.
say
all,
like 7, and
The,
they're like, oh yeah, of course. You're like,
the
damn it.
more,
yeah,
for
because
me,
they're
the
all
more
separate.
if
Yeah,
it's big and it involves multiples, the more break it down. But you got to be very specific.
mm-hmm.
And just this happened to me. Um, many moons ago, I was painting out a room, and I wasn't specific, but I should have been in the contract. She was like, "Oh, can you come over here and touch this up?
I remember this story.
Can you come over here and touch this up?" Remember what
Yeah.
I did, did you?
Oh yeah, I remember. Different
Did I
sheen
tell
of
that on
paint.
the pod? Did I tell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I tell that on the podcast?
Yep.
I'm
Oh my
not sure
God.
if I've heard it. It may have been before me.
Tell it.
Okay,
It's
so
funny.
me and my buddy Robert down in Hollywood, Florida, we were exhausted. We had just done out this room for them. And she goes, "While you have your stuff out," and I was doing the baseboard. Okay, I was painting out the trim, that's semi-gloss, or could have been gloss, but it was semi-gloss. But she didn't know because it matched the flat paint. And she goes, "Oh, you're using the same paint?" I go, "Oh yeah." So I started doing the touch-ups on the wall. And Robert goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm just helping her touch up." She goes, "And you know, little spots." So I was making big ass circles, doing smiley faces with it. And I go, "How's that look?" She goes, "Oh, that looks good."
Yeah, you never know until the light hits it the right
Oh
way.
my God. I go, "Let's beat feet and get out of here." We were driving his van away, and I thought we were going to wreck. He was laughing so hard. He goes, "Oh, is she going to be pissed?" I don't care. She was trying to ride us for extra. So you gotta be very specific when you do that, and you gotta
Yeah.
say, well, you have to be bold and say, well, yeah, I have that up, but that's my time,
Yeah.
and that's gonna cost you extra if you want me to do that.
Jevin,
And when
can
they
I?
start to hem and haw, it says, I'm out of there.
Yeah. Can I share the biggest thing that I learned from doing client work, and
Mhm. Absolutely.
what I would, if I started it again today, what I would absolutely do? In the beginning, I went to somebody's house, sat down with them, talked about what they wanted. 9 times out of 10, they don't know exactly what it is that they want. Most people don't know what they want until they see it. So then you're flipping through Pinterest or whatever. They're like, "Ooh, I like that," right? And I was always very like money conscious. I want to get this job, so it's probably going to be pine and it's going to be stained some other color to look like another wood. And I would do anything that they wanted in the beginning. And then I got to a point where I said, I will only do things with these types of wood, and I will only use these finishes. So, and these colors, right? Like if you want it to be, no sheen, we're going to use Rubio or whatever, depending on what the project is. If you want it to be semi-gloss, we're going to use a polyurethane. If you want it to be light, we're going to use white oak. We're going to use maple. If you want it to be dark, we're going to use cherry. We're going to use walnut. There was none of that. Like I didn't give them all the options because what I learned, educate. Yes, that's very important. But still, even when you try to educate most people, they're just like, they don't get it.
What's the price? Yeah.
Right. What's the price? But the funny thing is that in a lot of cases back then, it's probably very different now. Well, it may not be that much different because pine is so expensive now. When you're charging somebody for a pine table and you're putting that together and you buy the pine, you buy the stain, you buy the finish, you have the extra time added for finishing that, staining that, all of that stuff. It adds up quickly to where they could have just gotten the hardwood in the first place and had a clear coat thrown over the top of it and been good to go. And maybe it costs a little bit more, but it's going to be a much better product. So what I found is that the more options you gave them, the more downhill that conversation went, because then they're like, "Oh, but I could do this and I could do this." So then I got to a point where I actually started, like I took an iPad and I had an iPad that I would take and I'd go sit down and I would show them things that I had built prior, because I'd have like a table folder and it would be like, this is a trestle table. This is a farmhouse table. This is just a standard 4 straight leg table, whatever. Then I would have a wood species folder and be like, this is oak, this is walnut, this is cherry, this is maple. And that was it. Like there was no options. If you want to go dark, we're going to go with something like this. If you want to go light, we're going to go with something like this. Do you want it to be a flat finish, a semi-gloss finish, or a glossy finish? Didn't even tell them what kind of finish I'm using. They just said semi-gloss. Okay. You know what I mean? And I would pick whatever polyurethane or whatever finish I'm doing based on the wood to make sure that it comes out right. Right. So as soon as I started giving them less options for the person that doesn't really know what they truly want.
Yes.
Yep. Then it was just
That's
like, okay, I trust you. You know what I mean? I trust you. But the minute you show them and I got to share this story because I can tell you're questioning whether or not you want to continue doing custom work. The reason why I got out of custom work, and I probably talked about this on the podcast before, my last project that I did for a client as Bent's Woodworking, minus friends of mine that I've done stuff for since then, was a husband and wife, and he wanted a desk, and everything the guy said he wanted, he got trumped by his wife, and his wife kept basically taking everything over. It ended up evolving from a cedar top to now we want like a river style table, but we don't want like a traditional epoxy table. And we want it to be all this color. No, now we want it to be painted. And all of that evolved in front of me while I'm sitting at their house because I made the mistake for that particular job. This was the very end for me. Like I knew better, but I had a good feeling about this couple. I was like, okay, they're doing well. Like this is going to be a good job. And I was like, well, we could do something like this. And that was the kiss of death. The kiss of death. It was the worst project. It was the only negative experience I ever had with a client, but that was enough for me to go, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yep.
And that was it for me.
Options are another conversation and you don't get paid for those conversations.
Yep.
So it's actually funny to me that like the power screens that are like 30% of my business, I have a 3-ring binder that is seriously this thick. It's the thickest you can get with screen options, colors, different things. I've never taken it to appointment. I take in what their needs are and I figure out and I tell them what it is that they need. I've had a few people ask, not a few, it's regular. Some people will go, do you have colors? Do you have colors you can pick out? Colors? Like, And I say, you know where we live? I said, you may go to Florida and see white screens that come down. You see that kind of thing. But in my experience, whenever you do a color other than black, it looks weird. It looks like you have a tarp up over your thing. And also, if you have a white screen, you can't even see out of it. It's really strange. Like a white screen comes down, your visibility is awful. A black screen, you can't see it. I usually don't have to explain that concept, but I've had people be like, want to go with a light screen, and I tell them, and they'll listen to you. They trust you generally. If somebody didn't, I would run because it's like, it's what I do. And if you don't
Yep.
trust what I'm saying, what looks right in your house, you're not my customer anyway. If
It's a
I
red
can't take a
flag.
picture,
Perfect.
if I can't take a picture of your project when I'm done, if I'm embarrassed, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Everybody is not your client.
No, they're
Period.
not. They're
Point
not.
blank. In the
They're
beginning,
not.
I thought everybody was my client. I will lower the price to get this job.
No.
Everybody is not your client.
They're not. You want a client that trusts you, knows you know what you're doing, and they back off. And it's when you all both were talking about customers. That's one of the reasons why I've touted a lot on the podcast before that I love to work with designers. That's one of the reasons because designers generally know what they want, and they come to you with a clear plan, and they say, "This is what I want," and that's why I love working with them. I don't have to deal with the like wishy-washiness of maybe a homeowner that's not experienced. The designer is my in-between person. And that's why I love
Yep.
to work with designers because they know what they want.
Yeah.
I love that. I
fly
just
is
watched that. I watched that
driving
fly
me-
land on your face 6 times while you were talking.
Yeah, I know, man.
This fly, I think off the cut sent this fly in here to annoy me for the entire podcast.
Jerks.
It is, they do things like that. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, that's custom work can be okay. You have to see all of the warning signs. You have to make sure it is extremely profitable when it's a one-off job.
Oh yeah.
Because I tell you, I listened to the last podcast and I told Cameron, I said, what Sedge just said is something I have never thought about before. But that time you spend sleep, like thinking you're asleep and you're not, laying in the bed, that time
Billable
while you're
time.
driving, that time while you're sitting on the beach on vacation, you're thinking about it, that is billable time.
Yep.
And I have never thought about it that way. But for lawyers to get away with doing it, why can't we?
Exactly.
And when you're doing a custom project like what you have behind you, I mean, there's a ton of thought that goes into that.
Mhm.
That they have no idea that you did this and not this to make it work and make it more usable, make it look better, matching the grain, all that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
I think the biggest rule I have is when you're doing custom work, it better be crazy profitable, crazy, because they could just go to a furniture store and buy whatever. But when they're getting something custom made, they need to pay because
You know,
it's expensive. You
Just
know,
the overall worry about, hey, am I gonna? Oh my God, it's like I'm building this miter saw stand, and I wake up in the middle of the night, even as I go through it. Oh, I wonder how I'm gonna be able to get those in time and do this and do
Mhm.
that. And I'm like, huh,
Yeah.
but I actually, as I've gone through it, I go, I kind of like this. I still like this. I don't mind worrying about it or thinking things, waking up in the middle of the night, going down to the shop. I actually like it.
yeah,
But
just need to
But
account
that's
for
for
it.
you. That's a project for you, not
Yes.
Yeah.
a paying
Right.
client. Yeah.
well,
yeah,
I'll tell you
I'm-
when.
I'm going
Well,
home
what-
irritable and the
Right.
kids and
Yeah.
my
Then you
wife.
take it
Yes.
home. Yeah.
Yeah.
and you got to
One
be
thing that
careful
I-
with that.
Correct.
One thing that
Yep.
I actually miss about doing like actual client work is that I built a lot simpler when I did client work.
Mhm.
Now, because I'm making content about it, it's like, okay, well, I don't want to just make this super simple. Let's make it somewhat interesting that somebody else isn't doing, or like the way that I made that nightstand, which that video is coming out this week. I used the domino, I used the lamello, I used the shaper origin, I used all these things. And I did that for the reasons of the video. If I would have just built that regular, it would have taken so much less time to do it. And so part of me actually does kind of miss that point. I also miss, dealing with customers, like seeing their happiness when
Uh-huh.
you deliver something. But now it's very different. One thing that my biggest red flag at the end was if within 15 minutes of me meeting them to talk about their project, they asked how much it was going to cost. If they did that, I knew that they weren't for me, because
Yeah.
the client you want is the client that never even asks what a price is. You just
Mhm.
send them an estimate and they're like, yeah, I can't wait. Here's the deposit.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about something and you're like, only a couple minutes into it. They're like, just out of curiosity, like just an estimate, like what do you think something like this is going to cost? That means that they're concerned about the budget. And that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that like I'm going to charge them more if they don't say that. It's just I'm going to charge what I want. If they say yes, great. But you can always tell the people that are going to say yes, the people that are going to say no.
And
Well,
it's
you don't
easier
ever,
to pigeonhole yourself too,
yeah,
because you might not think of something and quote yourself lower and then explode it when you give them the real price.
Yeah.
and the kind of work that we do, you don't want to have somebody that price is driving what they do. I am getting dived by this fly. It's awful.
Yeah.
He is landing everywhere, or she. I don't want to be gender
How-
specific.
It could not identify as a male or female fly.
It
Did you ever
may
think
just
about
be,
that?
yeah. It may be a they. I
Their
don't know.
pronouns could be them, they.
I don't know the fly's pronoun. I don't want to assume anything.
Yeah.
I
Rude.
do. I regularly, Cameron and I will drive away from a job and we'll do, and he said that this week. He goes, "Did you notice that they never even talked about what it was going to cost? Like we went and they were like, we want this, we want this, we want this, we want this to be like this, we want this to be like, okay, how soon can it be? People who don't care about cost care more
They
about
want to know when you
timeline.
can get it done. Yes.
Yeah.
Timeline is more important than cost.
So-
I'm getting pretty entertained about that fly
Yeah,
landing on your
I'm ignoring
gourd.
the fly and he's still swarming. It's like
Yeah.
Top Gun.
It's so interesting you mentioned that because I vividly remember a couple of customers that I would deal with. And when they would start asking that question, I knew that they didn't give a crap about anything else. And I would tell them, well, I was working in a 4 to 6 month wait basically back then. And I was like, well, I mean, I could prioritize this and do it sooner, but it's going to cost extra. And when they would be like, oh, it's no problem. Don't care. I really need this by this day. That's the best customer. Doesn't care about cost and
Yes.
needs it by a certain time.
That is the ideal.
That is
And-
ideal.
And that comes back to designers. They aren't as concerned with cost because they're passing it on to their clients.
Yep.
They're worried about timing. And that's what everything
This is
comes
kind of
back for
making me
me.
want to do client work again.
Designers are the key because they're your cushion between. Now, the problem is it sounds like it was a designer that you dealt with that was saying that it wanted it lighter. Is that true?
The client, yeah.
Oh, the client, it wasn't a designer.
Correct. No.
Because designers
No
are pretty
word,
dead
no.
set and they're not going to change their mind. They know what they want.
Yes. Yeah.
I also like we have on our deck ceiling product, we have 4 different colors. And sometimes they'll ask me for samples, which is hilarious. It's gray, tan, bronze, and white. It's not that hard. I can look at a house and I can tell you the best color. Sometimes they're like staggering on tan or bronze. And they'll stand there and hold the sample. And I always say, don't hold it like that. Hold it upside down because it's going to be on the ceiling. It's not on like that looking at it in the sun. And they're like, oh, okay. And it even matters what their concrete, if they have concrete or dark patios, will affect the color of the ceiling because it reflects it. So I feel like with customers, it's the least options as possible. Like if you have 80 hat colors, it's like, what do you want? A blue, a green, a
Yeah.
black? It's like, don't share that. Yeah, there's the boys. Just saw the boys.
Yeah. And as far as starting a new business and all that kind of stuff, it's the little stuff like that you don't really think of, or the business side of everything that is more of a pain than dealing with clients or any of the other stuff.
It is. Yeah, it's enough to make you want to quit when you get the wrong client. But if you have good clients, it's really fun.
Yeah. And 95% of my clients have all been great. This is the one
Yes.
and I felt like I did everything I should have, except for having an actual contract that they signed.
Yeah, correct. And I'm guilty of that. Like I'll just put we just kind of have a verbal on that color selection. Sometimes I, could get in trouble with that aspect, but people that dot their I's and cross their T's, it can save you. And that comes back to it's really good to work for referrals and not just complete out of the blues because your crazies come from out of the blue.
Yep.
Your referrals generally you have good luck, but you never know what you're getting. Generally,
Referrals are
yes.
great as long as you didn't give the person that's referring them a really big discount.
True.
Yeah, that too. Yes.
True. I love it when it's a referral because I know they somehow know that other person and I like them and it's just going to be the same experience. But when it's out of the blue, you got to really have your radar on. Like Jason
Your
said,
spidey senses.
if you walk into it and the husband and wife can't agree, that is not going to get any better. And that happened to me once, and I was embarrassed for him. I mean, she was railroading him. He was like, it was close to a desk. It was an office, and it was sliding doors that they wanted to have as divider. And she just went off on him to the point that I was embarrassed for him, and I wanted to not be there. I'm like, did they even see me that I'm here? And I will say that like the whole experience was kind of a nightmare. That was kind of that was setting the stage for what the entire project was going to be like.
Yeah.
Sedge, did I ever tell you? Remember the house that you delivered the table with
Oh
me?
yeah. Yep.
Did I ever tell you the story about the husband and wife when I went there to do the walkthrough?
Vaguely remind me.
So I went to meet. I built a table using Hartzell walnut for one of the Hartzell family members, and I'll never forget this great couple. They ended up being, just phenomenal, and we still talk periodically today.
Oh, okay. Now I remember. Keep going.
Yeah. So I was talking to her about the different options. We're standing in their dining room, and their husband, who I hadn't really met, like he was just kind of like, "Hey, what's up?" He was sitting on the couch in the living room watching the baseball game, and she would ask him a question on something that I was talking about, and he was not paying attention, and he would just be like, "Yeah, huh, whatever." Like completely and it was the most like uncomfortable, awkward situation that I had been in a really long time, because the entire time I'm watching her, and I can tell she's like, I am going to destroy this son of a as soon as he walks out of this house. Like, how rude. And I think he finally kind of picked up on that, because then he like walked over and we started talking, but he was very just like, yeah, I really don't care. Like, what is this other guy doing in the house type of deal almost. And it was very uncomfortable. And you could tell how she wasn't even looking at me at this point. She was just staring over at him while he wasn't paying attention. I'm like, oh man, this is not going to be good. And then I think he finally got it, and they ended up being fantastic. Like, wonderful, wonderful people. Super, super cool. But
generally I have found whenever I go and both are there, one is full on ready to go with it. The other one is the hesitant one who maybe doesn't want the project. That's the one I have to win over. The other one, I've already got them. And it doesn't, sometimes it's the husband, sometimes it's the wife. I always know, I can tell. And that person that doesn't warm up to you, they will not be nice to you until you're wrapping up the project. And all of a sudden they're going, okay, this guy's doing a good job. I like it. So, that's the one I'm trying to impress. The other one, I know I already had him in the beginning.
My favorite part of that whole delivery, and Jason knows what it was. We delivered it. They were setting up to eat, and they put one of the kids there, and the kid took a fork and started going like this.
See ya.
Right. And Jason's face was like, and I go, I think we better get out of here.
I'd hate to have to charge him for a Rubio reapplication process. It's an in-depth process.
Yeah. No, I used MTech conversion
varnish,
water-based conversion varnish on that.
Oh, that was a beautiful table.
Yeah, it was nice. I like that.
The fork didn't hurt it.
I don't know. I didn't go look. It wasn't my problem at that point. I already delivered it.
We just said, let's beat feet, man. Let's go.
He wrote me. He wrote me probably about a year later and was asking about like what it takes to refinish it or something like that. We talked a little bit about it, but I haven't heard anything. Last time I talked to him, I asked how the table was holding up. He said fine.
He ended up being in your fantasy football league, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, I know another one that you wouldn't think of that needs to be on a contract, which Sedge may have had it on one. I built a boardroom table 12 by 5. I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, and it's still sitting in my shop.
Yes,
because they're not ready. They're not ready
fee.
For it. They haven't built the base. And it's kind of an odd thing because usually people are like win. I kind of enjoyed that they weren't in a hurry for it. But I've already Rubioed it. I've dusted it off a few times. It's become an extra large workbench top for us. I use it all the time. I use it as a as a desk. I use it for all kinds of things. But Cameron's like, when are they going to get this ready? And I'm like, I don't know, but we need to get it out. But it's almost like a storage fee would have made sense on this because it is a pain. Where do I put it if I don't, it's 12 by 5. It's huge.
Yeah.
So that's something that would be worth putting in a contract if you did a lot of client work, especially I think of people like Lumber to Love, the table manufacturers. If they had somebody coming to pick it up, they need to charge because they can't afford to store tables for a bunch of clients that aren't picking them up.
Yeah. On
That's a good point.
delivery.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that was good.
Delivery.
Hopefully we were able to help you out there a little bit, Jevon.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Jevon.
I'm
Yeah,
not going to lie
well,
though, having that conversation, I did kind of like, it kind of took me back a little bit. Like, man, it'd kind of be nice to, do a project for a customer and, see that reaction again. Like I've done stuff for friends.
yeah. So the barbecue and the hats give me that reaction. The woodworking and whatnot, and like the lasers run and do Pinteresty kind of stuff. And I still like putting smiles on people's faces, but that's a lot more in depth and a lot more to deal with than the barbecue.
Well, my advice would be, you're getting to a point where you're starting to spread yourself too thin and you can see it. I can tell that just by the way you're talking. So like, you know, the deeper you get into the business side of things or the social media side of things, you start to realize like time is valuable.
Yep.
There's a lot of really good ideas. There's a lot of things you want to be doing, but at some point you really need to have a hard conversation with yourself and go, what am I doing right now that's not making me money and
Correct.
taking
Yep.
time away from the things that are? And if I stop doing that, what effect would it have on my business?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
like for me, that example is spending hours every day responding to YouTube comments and Instagram comments or stressing about posting to Instagram or all of these things. It's like these things aren't generating revenue for me. I only have so much time in the day. I just need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
And nothing
Yeah,
changes.
and the other thing too that's so important is if this is taking time away from the most important part of my life, which is my wife and
Family.
children, you're going to pay for it.
Yep.
So you really have to quantify your time and the value of that because that's the most important thing you have is those 3 kids and that wife of yours.
Correct. Yep.
And you want to be present for them, not thinking about the job and irritated when you go home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Definitely guilty of that.
and I'm lecturing, but I lived through
Yeah.
that. There were times I'd get home 11 at night and everybody'd be in bed. And I was like, I missed everything.
Yep.
And then
I
when you
missed
do
it.
that, the
Ugh.
next day you have a client that acts like the way a client can act. That's when you're short fused as it is.
Yes.
And it's just you start questioning the direction you went in life. That's
I-
it compounds.
I know somebody
I-
who ended up in jail because of that. Something happened at home. The next day, a client started to nickel and dime him, and he took a baseball bat to the kitchen he had just installed.
And
he ended up in jail.
I totally could understand that thinking. After
Yep.
eventually everybody will go through that,
I regret I missed out on a lot of Leo's younger years when I was doing that's when it was really hot and heavy and like getting into YouTube, still doing client work. I was still in the army full time and my days would literally be I would wake up, I'd go to work, I would get home, I would go out in the shop, my wife would say dinner is ready, I would come inside, I would eat, and then I would go right back out in the shop. And because of that, I missed a lot of Leo's younger years. And I'm reminded of it constantly today because Max is now 2. And I'll be like, I don't remember Max or Leo being like that. And Nicole's like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, it just reminds me all the time. It's like, I wasn't present. I wasn't there because I thought this thing, don't get me wrong. It was worth it in the long run because it's developed a business that I'm now able to provide for them at a level I never thought I would be able to, but it still sucks. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
You don't get those years back.
Nope.
Well, that's why
And
I
now
went into
it's like-
teaching. My dad was
Yeah.
always gone growing up, which he was now looking back, he supplied all the money, but he missed out on all the stuff. I would go out and throw the baseball with mom, or she would shoot baskets with me. She came to every basketball game. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to become a teacher is I had the hours to be with the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's important.
Well, keep at it
Yep.
for
Yep.
now.
But
Don't let
that being said,
Hey,
I still love what I'm doing, and
Did we-
it's very enjoyable.
Did we did we touch on what your handles were on social media?
Yeah,
Yeah, let's do
let's
that.
close out with that. Yeah.
Sure. So it's at Cheney Concepts on Facebook. Instagram is the main social media account. I have some YouTube stuff that I need to get done this month. And I would like it to develop into that too, especially if the hats take off and I can have an employee that gives me the time to do the editing and the filming and all that fun stuff. So yeah, and I didn't even touch on there's a barbecue rub that's about ready to come out that's been in the making for
Oh.
2 years. So being spread thin is kind of an understatement. So trying to figure
Wow.
out what to zone in on and coming up with something that's more of a passive income while I do the bigger projects.
And your
Right.
podcast is called what?
The stall.
Well,
Yep.
Stall
The Stall.
podcast
Yep.
Well, I'm
with
gonna
Mark
reach out to you.
Spermola.
I'm gonna reach out to you about some hats because I've seen the hats in person and they are definitely high quality. So I'll
Well, thank
definitely
yeah, and
reach
and
out
they
to
keep
you.
the flies off too.
Yeah, I'd like to
Yeah.
have one right now because it has it's amazing that little thing has drove me crazy almost the entire podcast.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It was
But
on
yeah.
your mic there for a while.
I know. And then I hit it and knocked my wire loose. There's been a lot going on here with the fly.
Where's Tom Silva?
He's out and about. He's hunting.
We
This is when
haven't
he
seen
keeps
him.
mice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I did want to
Yeah.
mention to everybody listening, because this will be on YouTube for patrons, but the Ronnie is actually sitting in his boat tonight,
Yeah,
which is looking very good, Ronnie. And
Yeah.
Thank you.
next week, we're going to need to talk about it before I go to Germany. We're going to need to kind of
Yeah.
discuss the progress on the boat.
And I'm sitting on a sustainer and I've came up with the idea that they need to have a sustain back accessory.
Sisback.
A cis back.
assist back.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Not to be confused
sustainer
with the Sisback.
after an hour and a half sustainer, maybe not the most comfortable thing in the world. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I wouldn't be able to get up.
Well, this was
That's
a
where
long
I'm holding
episode.
it.
This is one of the longest episodes we've done
Wow.
in a very long time.
It's
Mm.
very interesting. I love to
I-
hear where you are and it kind of filled in the gaps of what I knew, and that's awesome. And I definitely
Yeah.
want to reach out to you about some hats.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for having me. It was very fun to chat.
Yeah, of
And to
course.
pick your
Thank you,
brain.
Jevin. Thank
And
you for
yes,
your time.
Thank you again also for and from everybody that went to the meetup, yourself
Yes.
included, obviously. But
Yeah, you got
the
good
feedback
meat.
on the food was fantastic.
Good
So
meat.
thank you so much for helping
Good.
us out with that, because that was a huge help. Huge
Yeah.
help for sure. Next year
Not a
we'll be
problem.
happy to do it again.
Yeah,
Look forward
you
to
got
it.
good. Yeah, you got good meat.
Good meat.
Yeah, your
Thank
meat
you.
is unbelievable.
Good rub.
Yes.
All right, so
Thank you.
Jevin, now you get to hear the part where we close everything out and say goodnight.
Bye-bye.
And
Bye-bye.
Sedge just says
Bye-bye.
bye-bye, bye-bye, and always thinks that he's going to be the last bye-bye, and he never is.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Bye
Sedge, you
bye.
you
I know. Bye
can't
bye.
win.
I know.
Au
Bye
revoir.
Bye-bye.
You can't
Bye-bye.
win.
Toodaloo.
bye. Bye
Okay, bye-bye.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
bye. Bye bye.
Oh, I already ended it, Sedge.
He already did it.
No, you didn't.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.